an equation like, whoa. If you have an equation like this, step one, when necessary, solve at least one equation for one variable. Okay? So you're solving for either one of the variables. So the easiest one would be for y. You can minus 2x from both sides. That's what that means. You're solving for one variable. Now, in terms of system of equations, you can solve for either the x or the y. Okay, you don't have to solve for the y. You're not writing it in slope-intercept form all the time. All right. Now, remember that. Remember that this is. We have two equations. Okay. I'm looking at two equations up there now. The main thing that we need to do when we're solving for a system of equations is figure out if they intersect and where do they intersect. So we need the x and y value of where they intersect. What is the solution? Okay? This is all we're going to be working with for like 2 weeks. Is solving where they intersect. What is their solution? Okay? Now, use substitution. Substitution, like I mentioned before, is when you solve for one variable. Okay, so we have two equations up there. The first one is already solved for y. Here comes the tricky part. For substitution, all you are doing is whenever you solve for a certain variable, in this case, this is y, when you solve for a certain variable, you are substituting, hence the name substitution, you're substituting this equation Josh, pay attention. You are substituting this equation because it's y equals, you substitute this equation in for y into your second equation. That's the tricky part. Okay, this is y equals, the top one is y equals negative 4x plus 12. So you substitute that equation in for y. Now, when you do that, so I'm just going to rewrite it, 2x plus, so I'm substituting that equation in for y. So you would do parentheses, that top equation, negative 4x plus 12 is equal to 2. Dylan.
You have a multiplier then?
That is 2x plus a negative 4x. What does that equal? If you add a negative 4 plus a positive 2, you're left with what?
So you just add it, right?
You're left with a negative 2x plus 12 is equal to 2. Okay, next step. You're solving for x. What do I do? All together. Give me something.
When you subtract.
Yes, you subtract 12 from both sides.
Besides the 2, like, at the top.
Solving for x still. Okay, that gives me a negative 10. Okay. Divide both sides by negative 2. That gives you a positive 5. Okay. Now, once I have my value for x, how could we figure out the value for y? Yes, all you have to do is plug it in, like the little light, whatever, plug it in. Have you never heard that?
No.
That's old school. No. I don't know. Whatever.
Jesus
That's
is
beside
always
the point.
the answer.
Okay, anyways. Shh. So yes, you're going to plug in that value of 5 in for x. Now, here's the cool thing. You can use either one of those top equations. Either one of them. You will get the exact same answer. Okay? So it looks like the top one would be okay. Let's just use the top one because it already is in y equals form. All right? So I'm going to do y equals -4. What is my x value?
5.
Good. Plus 12. Okay? That gives me a -20. That leaves me with a -8. So, the point at which they intersect, or their solution, is 5 and -8. We have our two equations. We need to figure out where they intersect. What is their solution? All right? So, the top one is already in y equals form. Okay? So, we are going to substitute this equation, 2x, into the value for y. Because this is y equals. That top one is y equals 2x. So I'm going to use what I have for y, and I'm going to substitute that in for y in the second equation. Now, when you do this, make sure that you put whatever you substitute in parentheses. Always, always, always. I promise you will make less mistakes. Okay? Does everybody see how I did that? I just substituted what I had equal for y in for my y value, my second equation. That's it. Okay. Now from here I'm solving. Four times 2x gives me 8x. This gives me 11x. Divide both sides by 11. Now that we have our value for x, how do we determine our value for y?
Plug it in.
Plug it in. Okay? Which one's the easiest one to plug in? Which equation?
2.
The first or the second one? The first one. Because literally all you have to do is y equals 2. You substitute what you found out for x, which is 1, so y is equal to 2. So your solution would be 1, 2. Okay? We have been, those first two problems that we worked out, they already had y equals. Okay? Now, these two equations, they're not solved for either variable.
So should you solve one?
Yes, so you need to solve one of these equations for one of the variables. Okay? It looks like, now you don't always have to solve for y. Okay? We're not doing slope-intercept form. It's not always going to be y equals. You can, if that makes more sense to you, that's fine. I always like to do the easiest one. So if I'm looking at these two equations, it looks like to me if I use that first equation and I solve for x, it would be pretty simple to do that because I would just need to do one step. How would I solve that first equation for x? How do I solve it for x? No. How do I get the x value by itself? No.
Subtract x.
You have x is beside of a -2y. How do I get the 2y to the other side? Not divide. Not multiply. You add 2y. Okay? All I'm doing is adding 2y to both sides. Austin, buddy. be productive, write something down. I am going to substitute my 2y minus 3 in for what? X.
I thought it'd just be the opposite. If you did it like X. Okay.
So I'm going to substitute what I have found in for x. So I'm going to substitute 3x. Nope. I'm going to substitute my value, what I found for x. So I got 2y minus 3. So I'm going to substitute that in for x. 2y minus 3. Okay? And just write the equation just like it is.
I just substituted it, right?
That's literally all. You are solving for what? Y. So you distribute that. Okay, all I'm doing is solving, simplifying, solving for y.
Wait,
So then now let's add 9 to both sides. Okay, I'm combining my like terms right here.
Now you would subtract.
Well, not subtract, but what?
divide.
Now that I have figured out my y value, I need to plug it into either one of my two equations up top. Okay? Plug in 3 for y to solve. We need to solve for x. Which one looks like it'd probably be the easiest one?
3x plus 5y.
Well, that would,
No, the x.
really the x minus 2y looks pretty simple to me because x is already there by itself. So let's use that one. I mean, you could use either one. Honestly, you'll get the same answer, okay? Whichever one you feel is easiest, use that one. That's fine. So I'm going to substitute what I found for y in for y. Okay? I'm going to work that out. 2 times 3 gives me 6. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Okay? Now, your solution would be 3, 3.